Yes, I lovely day to everyone. Today we have some information on the Anunnaki. A lot of questions have been asked by various people all around the globe about this topic. And who are the Anunnaki? Some say it's gods, some say it might be some demons, some say it might be some entities that they can't explain how they look, but they're giants and they're powerful. Okay, people, we're going to go into some master teachings about this, and we're going to deal with a master teacher on this particular subject so that whoever listening can learn and get the deep roots and the truth to this whole Anunnaki thing. And so I think a lot of people don't really understand it, where it's coming from. What we're going to do right now in the beginning here is just let each and every one know that the information here saying is for you to decipher for yourself as well. You can do more research into it. However, remember that you people here right now have been dropped down to a lower vibration because of the world, the changes in the world, universal changes, seeing because of men and the things that they've done and what they've done on the physical level about the things and the looks and the matter instead of focusing on the spiritual heights. Because we have ascended, our ancestors have ascended, and now our people have been brought back into a low vibration. So they can't see the energy and our power that they used to control or used to build within the past. They can't see it. A lot of people just don't see it. They can't align themselves to look at their energy and align it with their ancestors due to the low vibrations they now carry. So listen to the master teacher and grasp what you can. To all the people out there listening, thank you. Please hit the like button, leave your feedback, and also subscribe. Hit that notification bell, and let's go deep diving into information and knowledge about all type of stuff in this universe. See, we're going to start today. Matter of fact, we start already. Love and respect. Let's go.
Your question about the Anunnaki, I think I'm going to take a lot of time today to really cover this Anunnaki question because everyone seems to be on this Anunnaki stuff right now. So what I'm going to do is really go into detail about the Anunnaki. The funny thing is that going back to the master teacher when he first came to teach us, he wanted to give us Wu Nuat, which we know was Wu Sabat today. And back then in 1970, everybody wanted religion. Right, so he had to put away the Wu Sabat and then teach us religion. And as we learned more about religion, we got to a point where we wanted to really know who this God is or Allah or these deities that we kept asking about. So he took us into the Sumerian school and we learned about the Anunnaki and all of that, and then we moved on from that. And now we're in the second half hour. So the first half hour was from 1970 to the year 2000. And now everyone's asking about Anunnaki. So now he's there to give us Wu Sabat. It's almost like we're doing the same thing. And we only have between now and 2030. I want to cover this Anunnaki, put it to sleep so that we can move on to what we call the hereafter doctrine. Because even with when we wanted religion, that was Abrahamic, the monotheistic religion. And ironically now, everyone's on the Anunnaki stuff, which Abraham and his father were the people that the Anunnaki chose. So yeah, we want to really go into this. We don't want to be stuck in these religions because that's what's happening now with this Anunnaki stuff. So I want to cover the Anunnaki, part Anunnaki, and then we can move on to the hereafter doctrine. Now, the hereafter doctrine is the master secrets, the actual facts, and Pataruk, with the many different Pataraks that the master teacher has actually, given us. And when we say the master teacher, I'm of course talking about Dr. Malachi Z. York Parnabab Yanun. No one covers any subject in as much detail that he does. Let me show you something. And only this is just to, if you look at the cover of this book, this book came out, late 80s, probably 90s, right? And if you look at it carefully, we'll probably post a picture, but he's already telling us on there, right? This is called Humans Were Created From. And this is scroll 17, study book 18, Supreme Mathematics, class R, for the students of the Holy Tabernacle at the time. The reason I'm saying that is if you look closely on this book, you see he was already telling us about the Homo habilis there, going on to the Homo erectus, to the Homo sapiens, to Neanderthal, to the Homo sapiens dealing with modern man. So this book was already covering what a lot of anthropologists are now talking about in terms of the root races. And just like the Yakub story, he's covered the Anunnaki, part Anunnaki. This is where we're going to come from today, and some information from the Holy Tablets. And he goes into great detail. Remember, he is Tahuti, the scribe that is known by many names, you know, Thoth. If you haven't seen that video yet, go and watch a video that we already did on Tahuti, Thoth, Hermes as he's known, Trismegistus, which is, you see the Megistus, that's 3 when you look at the word tri, because he's a triad being or triunion being. Right, so let's get into this Anunnaki story. What I would say for the diehard Anunnaki people, some parts of this is like when you're reading the book of Numbers in the Bible, because it's a lot of information, a lot of detail. So I want you guys to stick with it to the end. And right, let's get into it. So this scroll is called The Master Secrets, Part Anunnaki and the Biblical and Quranic Race, series number 50. So let's get into it. All right, so 1, it says, La'ankum ayinawap karadu, for you all my Nawapian children. In every culture in this world of theirs, there's a creation seems to begin with what is formed or shaped. So every creation story starts with what is formed or shaped. Yet, in fact, the word they use is creation or create, which simply means to grow. So let's look at it. So you've got, let's say this is outside the planet, outside the earth, all right? So things coming in, and then this is the planet. And obviously we also have, let's say, the waters, right? Water, earth, sky, and beyond, all right? Okay, right, bear in mind, because let's say this is the earth. Okay, so we're going to fill in the gaps as we go along. Okay, so when you say the beginning of creation, people, when you look at and break down that word, it means to grow. So all begins with that principle. So in each and every culture, there is what they call an incarnation or a manifestation from being. The original being would have to contain all that was manifested as male or female and neutral. So on the planet, we have female, and then we have male. As you can see, male is contained within the female, and then we'll have neutral, right? So like we'll say neutral gender, meaning that how people come to be on this planet from wherever they come from means that they're coming from somewhere and they become a female, a male, or neutral, which can be both, as in hermaphrodite and hermaphrodites, right? Let's carry on. So the original being would have to contain all that was manifested as male, female, and neutral. This also pertains to those things on a molecular scale. You have the first element on the periodic chart. The element hydrogen is the first, then you have helium second, and so on. So what we're basically saying is that if we went that way and we come here and then we go this way, yeah, let's say things beyond this line, remember this is going up here, that will be going up. So E1, E2, E3, E4, E5, E6, E7, E8, and E9. And then going this way, we're going to have H1, etc. going that way, right? Okay, cool. So when we're saying it will also pertain to things on the molecular scale, you have the first element on the periodical chart. The element of hydrogen is first, right? So this is here. Hydrogen is first. And then you have helium. Yeah, so going this way, helium will be second. Right, so helium second, and then all the way to the 99th element. And now, because they add more elements as they're discovered. So we've even got the 114th now, etc. All right. So as it says, the 99th or now even the 114th element that they know and must discover, the 120th element, and so forth. Accordingly, you will find in every culture, such as the Egyptian, Khamanu, or the Ogdoads, right? These will be those 8 beings. These are sea creature, which is where the semen came from. And in the Ki-Enki, or the Shuma, or the Sumerian cult, you have the Igigi, right? You have in different cultures, you got the Egyptian, and you got the Sumerian, and this is where it's saying Igigi. We're gonna break all this down. The Igigi, right? Okay, so it goes on to say that the Sumerians have the Igigi or Ikiki. That's another thing we must emphasize, because today we're talking about the Anunnaki, right? So when we spell Anunnaki, the Anu, you can spell it like Anu, Na, Ki, because remember, phonetics, that Ki can be pronounced as Gi or Ki as in Ki. So you see some people will spell Anunnaki like with a Ki at the end instead of the Qi, or with a Gi, because phonetically you say Gi, Ki, or Ki. All right, then these Igigi were the ones that were looked over from the crafts. Some crafts visited, and some 200 of the 300 were cast down here to stay. And in the Bible, this is called the Nephilims. This is Genesis 6:4, where the giants, it says in Genesis, there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, right? The same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. The other 100 were condemned to stay on the earth as spirits, never to take on a physical form, except in the case of possession. And you find this in Revelation 12:9-12 and Revelation 18:2. And it says, those who stayed in the crafts yet did not inform their overlords of what they were doing were cursed to stay on the earth, yet in spirit form only. So you have these beings that have come here that are in spirit form, and they don't have bodies. Okay, Christians who get filled or possessed with the Holy Ghost experience these pure spirits. Those who are spirit, never having been in the jasad, flesh, as a physical body of their own, so they take over your katat body or physical being. That's 100,000 spirits every Sunday possessing the bodies of people, or 100,000 spirits as in legions or of demons. Yes, they multiply their spirits and become many, or as the Bible says, legion. So if you look at the quote Luke 8:30, and Jesus asked him saying, what is thy name? And he said legion, because many devils were entered into him. These spirit beings were also cast out with the 100 fallen angels for their silence in not informing the Most High of the 200 angels' behavior with the women of Adam, or the daughters of Enos. That's when they came and they were raping and having children with these women, which was actually forbidden. These children became known as the Gibor, or the mighty men, as it says in Genesis 6:4. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bore children to them, the name became mighty men. Hebrew Strong's number 1368, Gibor, which were of old and of renown. I'm going to go quite quickly because I really want to go through so much information. These Elohim, they're also referred to as Elohim, were also called the Dingir, right? They were also called the Dingir. And, you know, they're also known as Elohim. And the Dingir means the righteous ones of the rocket ship, of crafts of glory, or the kabad, glory, honor. Hebrew Strong's number 3519. Ushamgal, flying serpents. That's what Ushamgal, right? Ushamgal, yeah. That's another term referring to them, flying serpents, who the Leviathan or Lawitananu, Ina Annunaki, right? So that's when we say Ina Annunaki, this is where it breaks down as those beings that came to the earth in 50s, right? So Annunaki, Na is 50. Ki was the name of the planet Earth at one point, and Anu was the Most High, as is referred to in the scripture in the Bible. They came down in earth in groups of 50. Psalm 68:17. The chariots of God are 20,000, even thousands of angels. The Lord is among them as in Sinai in the holy place. They were genderless and manifested and became gender. So they were genderless, manifested and became gender, male or female. This is the real principle of what they call Gadad, right? Gadad. When you say Gadad, this is what becomes Gad, which becomes God. Because remember, when we look at Semitic languages, the vowels are interchangeable. So the A became God, or Gad, or from Gadad, and which is a German word that expresses divinity to them. And this is why we also say this is from the word gut. Yeah, gut, which is all, and you have to look at the G, because the G is important, because you start looking at God, ghost, ghouls, all ties in. Okay, so God is a neutral gender in that most manifest as male and female, and many, especially throughout the world, where male and female exist. Genesis 1:27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he, him, male and female created he, them. So it's plural when you say created them. All right. And so the image of this God, he was both male and female before things manifest in the physical or ethereal side of things, before Anu was in the physical form, who the Bible called Iliun El, Most High God. To understand the lineage by using words such as offspring, there is no way to explain it for your comprehension. For you to teach the truth of Anu physical being on the lowest level, so these are the words you have used to make yourself clear. I am trying to explain to you about existence before manifestation and physical. That already, remember we said originally that the word create or creation means to grow, right? So when people start off, they always talk about creation all the time, creation. And we know in Wusabat that there's a stage before creation, before things come down here, right? And people say, no, everything starts with the creation. We say, no, everything starts with pre-creation, which is existence, right? Because creation means to grow. So to grow means you take something that's already in existence and then you grow it and make it into something. This is why we said everyone's creation story starts with like a form of, you have to grow or create something, and then from that other things come. But let's keep going, because what I want to do is go on to, so he's saying, I'm trying to explain to you about existence before manifestation and physical, how it contained both genders before the word gender could be used at all, with pa'ut, all. So before you could even use female or male, there had to be something, yeah? There had to be something before that. And that's all, or existence in the all. Pa'ut, the console, which would contradict the principle. So what you must grasp at this point is that before the Anu, the physical father of Enki and Enlil, because this is what this is all about. When we're saying the Anunnaki, we're really talking about Anu and his family, yeah? Anu, and then you have Enki. Again, bear in mind what I said before. You can spell it like Enki or with a Ki. And his other brother, who is En, again, you can even put dots like that, En-Lil. And again, you can spell En-Lil like that or with a L-Y-L at the end, because it's all phonetic. So you could spell it like En-Lil. So 9 degrees backwards, there were 9 degrees or stages backwards, there was a being. And this is where, again, there's a problem, because when you say a word like being, in the tablets referred to as An, yeah, so this Anu is referred to also as An. And then as you come down, you get to, so it's An, which becomes Anu, which is referred to as the Most High in the Bible. And Enki is the sustainer, Enlil is the master, right? And in Arabic, the same Anu would become Al-Ali, Al-Ali, A-L-I-Y, Al-Ali. And then Enki, the sustainer, right? Enki's sustainer becomes, in Arabic, that becomes Rab, which, as we already said, means sustainer. Then Enlil is Baal. Yeah? So these are all terms and names for these people. And they're also known as Nunnumnir and Nudimud. Yeah? Enki will be Nudimud and Enlil will be Nunnumnir. So you're literally saying, like I said, Anu sent these beings to the planet Earth in groups of 50. Now, before the Anunnaki, the original An existed. Yeah, the original An existed. So this is what we're trying to go into, what we're calling existence. And that was within Pa'ut. Then you have the celestial devil, Nan-Na, right? Nan-Na. Right? That's who most people call or talk about when they're saying the devil. He's also known as Sin. So you hear Nana Sin, yeah? Or Zuen, which becomes Zion, depending on the pronunciation and the different tones. Now, they made it in a way that this Nana, Zuen, he's who people are calling the devil, and he's responsible for all the confusion and always creating the chaos to confuse everybody so that you can't find the truth without sounding like you're crazy. So this Nana, Sin, Zuen, he came actually to the planet in 2012, right? And he departed November 2015. He met with Obama because Obama was in office at the time. The master is saying here, my dedicated readers know that for years I have been teaching you for years to bring the facts to you. Yet being that you are trapped in the laws of person, places and things, right? So when this domain down here deals with, I always say people, places and things, but it's the same thing. Persons or people, places and things. And because you're trapped within that, when we're trying to teach things outside of what you know within these places, persons and things, people's minds can't really elevate to that. So he's saying it is very difficult. So you ask questions which you think you have figured out a mistake or a flaw in what I am teaching, such as how could Anu in the holy tablets be the Most High if the Most High could never be seen? And this is why I did this, where when you're coming down here, this is where they start from, physical things. hydrogen coming this way before they knew going the other way when you're dealing with the etheric realm, where you have the numbers E1, E2, E3 going to the other side of what we're calling things existing before creation. And I'm going to read you a little excerpt from the Holy Tablets, all right? Just the first part, chapter 1. And it says, the reason I'm reading the Holy Tablets, even though it has also expired, like the books of the monotheistic religions, the Bible, Qurans, they've all expired as of the year 2000. Expiring doesn't mean you can't still read them. They still have useful information. But he says here in tablet 1, lo, O my children. That lo starts with an L, as we always explain that this is the book of the Lamb that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad prophesies of somebody coming to bring this book. Lo, my children, allow me to speak with you, for it is that time again, every 25,000 years, for the renewal of your way of life, Nwapu. Let me speak with you of the beginnings, not singular, the beginnings of life before and after the knowledge bestowed upon you of your very own creation and the making of this planet you call Earth, and the many other planets of which you have no knowledge of. Your soul, that is the emotional you, is about to embark upon a journey through time and space within existence, through a time not yet encountered by Behemoth, the human beast, and the human beings, the children of the Aluhum. The human beings of who? Creative force of will, right? This is where, when you hear words like who, yeah, where we say human, we're really dealing with that deity, that of who, the creative will in ancient Egypt. And when you say man or min, again, remember, I say the I interchangeable with the vowel. So when you say human, you're really saying who and min, right? These are beings in ancient Egypt. When you know who Min is, he's the one that is depicted with the phallus. But anyway, he says, who, creative force of will, and Mim, also Mami, meaning deity of birth, which is another name for Mother Ninti. So Mami becomes the female counterpart, and Ninti, who gave birth to mortals. The human being of who, creative force of will, and main from the Latin spirits of the dead. Within the confines, this is a bit I really want to touch on. It says, within the confines of this holy tablet, you shall embark upon such knowledge which has never before been made so clear as this for you by any. Let me start by telling you about the beings that existed trillions of Earth years ago, before the Precambrian period, before you human beings were created in the physical form upon the planet Tamat, now called Earth. From the word iridu, right? Iridu means home away from home. They existed supreme beings of pure green light, ethereal, and sub-supreme beings of the impure amber light, fire. He says you cannot fully comprehend their beginnings because their time zone is much greater than your ability to comprehend at this point. And he goes on to say, yet this very tablet will take you and give you the information. So when we look at the planet, we see, let's say that's the planet Earth, right? With, you know, the continents. And this is just one orb that is orbiting around the sun. So when you're trying to teach and go outside of the planet, and he says the time, because you have the sun and you have, you know, the different planets going outwards, right? But this one orbits the sun, and it takes roughly 365 days for one orbit, which fluctuates because, you know, the sun is a little bit like shaped. These 2 points are slightly further away than these 2 points. So depending on where it is, that's why you get the leap years, and, you know, they add days and take days off to try and collaborate the time. But anyway, let's carry on. So before the Anunnaki, the original An existed, and that within Pa'ut. The celestial devil Nana, Sin, Zuen, made it where you cannot even learn the truth without sounding like you're contradicting the Most High. This Nana Zin, Zuen, returned to Earth in 2012 and departed November 2015 AD. So he was actually here on Earth for 3 years. And he says about, my dedicated readers know that for years I've been teaching you about facts and being able to break this being trapped in the laws of persons, places and things, his domain. And it's very difficult. Anyway, so he says, it is the demonic mind of the lower reptilian in you that made you surrender to the demonic interpretation of things and to badger those who are sent to raise you up out of person, places and things. So while someone is trying to raise you up outside persons, places and things and above that, because people don't comprehend it, they struggle with it. So it says this doctrine is trying to teach you that before the hydrogen atom, right? Before the laws of corpuscles, that's when you're dealing with atoms, cells. Remember, you go from density to matter, to atoms, to cells, to organisms, and these organisms is what forms tissues, and then universes, plants, everything that you call a thing. Because when we say things, we say, as we always say, you say something. But really, when you're thinking in people, places and things, you're saying the sum of a thing. So you can't really, if you can't quantify it or sum it up into something, you think it doesn't exist. It's going to get into more and more detail with the Anunnaki. So the purpose is for you to gradually allow me to raise you without looking for faults along the way. You will reach that perfect level of divine consciousness and be restored as a deity, as they would call it in their language, right? So the essence was all, and without this existence in the Pa'ut. All was all, and that existence became Pa'ut, all. The moment that existence was produced, anything that can be observed, it is from the inside. There is no outside, then it becomes Pa'ut, the all. They begin observing as a part of Pa'ut, all. Now, read to this chart of Ranat names that these are human being or physical being based on your ability of comprehension to explain, which is all you can depend on, yet in fact are only based on you, right? So we say you, we, he, they, she, them, us, and those, and finally I and me. Yeah, so when we refer to ourselves, this is what we say. We say you, we, he, they, she, them, us, and then I and me, where it begins and ends. Right, so now he's going to go into an, or pre-physical. He says at the origin, An, so An was before the physical, the celestial. He says, and his wife, who's known as Antu, right? They have never been seen by any physical eyes. An, also known as Anne, so the same An is also known as Anne, if I add the A-A-Y, Anne, all right? It's getting to the juicy parts, right? Anne, the utmost beyond, is the most high. These two beings are the manifestations of the principal male and female over everything that exists. Antu, the leader, who is An's counterpart, right? So you have An and Antu, Antu being the counterpart in the Sumerian language, and she was named Antum in the Akkadian language. So Antum. So Antu is also known as Antum. All right. Together, these ruling forces were over the abode called Nibiru, right? They were over Anne, Antu, and Antum. They were over Nibiru, right? So Nibiru is this big mothership that everybody keeps talking about. Today we're going to put the Anunnaki story to sleep, put it to bed, right? So they were over the abode called Nibiru, the translation of Nibiru is that which crosses the skies. Now these are the manifestations of An by his counterpart Antu and their manifestations. The first physical form was named Anki, okay? Because he was the first master of the firm abode. The second was named Ib, one in the middle. And the third one was named En-Uru, over the dwelling. Anki ruled after his father. Anki had no children and passed on while on the throne. So these are the 9 degrees or 9 Anus before the one that everyone keeps talking about. So after Anki's passing, his younger brother Ib took over the ruler's seat and was named An-Ib, the one who was An's son. That's what it means. This is the bit where I'm saying it's going to be like reading the book of Numbers. For those who've actually read the Bible properly from the beginning to the end, the book of Numbers is really a genealogy. His spouse was Nin-Ib, noble of Ib, who was his niece, a daughter of his younger brother En-Uru. And they produced the fourth, known as An-Shar-Gal, An's prince, who is the greatest of princes. That's what the names mean, right? When I'm giving you those translations. En-Uru also took a half-sister as a consort named Nin-Uru, and they gave birth to a son named Inama. 69. This Inama was also the father of Anu, and Shargal's consort, and his half-sister by the name of En-Uru was Ki-Shargal, greatest foundation of the Shars. That's what that means. The firstborn son of An-Shargal was named Alam. Alam was the father of Alalu. Remember, Alalu, is the brother of Anu. An-Shargal had another son by Ki-Shargal named Anshar, the fifth successor. Anshar, because remember Anshar and Kishar, when we were breaking down in the Sumerian doctrine, these are who we're talking about. Anshar also took a half-sister or a consort named Kishar, which means foundation of the Shars. They had a son named Enshar over the Shah, who was the sixth ruler. Enshar also took a half-sister as a consort named Ninshar, Shahs of the Lady. They produced a daughter. Enshar also had a son by another consort named Du-Uru, in the dwelling place, fashioned, that's what that means, who became the seventh successor. Now, Du-Uru took a consort named Da-Uru, she who is by my side. That's what that translates as. No children were produced from this union. Da-Uru adopted a son she found at the gateway of the abode and was named Lahama, which means dryness. That was the eighth. Now, prehistory. So, An, or Anu, right? The ninth one is the son of Inama. They had a consort named Antum, who was his half-sister. So, Anu also had a consort named Id, right? Because remember, in the old Sumerian doctrine, as we were taught, you had Anu having 2 wives. Id was one of those wives, known as Nimul. They had a son named Ea, he whose home is water. That Ea is dealing with, the Enlil and Enki, the 2 sons, right? So they had a son named Ea, he whose home is water, and that's Enki. The same is also called Nud-Imud, right? Nud-Imud, the maker of artful things. This was the firstborn son of An, or Anu. Antu, the half-sister spouse of An, or Anu, gave birth to a son named Enlil, right? This is your Enlil right here. And his name translates as master of the skies. This is why he was kind of over the skies, Enlil, and Enki was over the earth, Enlil, known as Master of the Skies. An also had a daughter named Ninmah by a consort named Si. And Anu had another daughter named Ba'u by another concubine, Nudimud, or Nudimud, the firstborn son of An, named Enki, Ea. He had a consort named Damkina, right? So Damkina, which means faithful spouse, also known as Ninki, lady of the key. So when you see the Ninki, so you had Enki and Ninki, all right, which translates as lady of key, lady of earth, daughter of Alalu and Nimug. They had fraternal twins, one son named Marduk, right, that's where we get the word Murdoch from, Marduk, son of the pure mound, that's what that means, and Ba'alat, and Bit Ilati, daughter of the deity. And so we go on. So, and Enki, who's also known as Nudimud, Ea, he fathered many other children, Dumuzi and Gish-Ti-Ana, both by a consort named Dutur, who is also Nin's son, the daughter of Ba'u and Nin-Erta. Remember Nin-Erta again, right? And Nin-Gish-Zida, by Hisat, daughter of Nanna and Ptah. Enki, Nudimud, Ea had sons by other consorts, and these sons were named Nin-Agal, Gibil, and Nagal. Remember Nagal again, this is one of those sons, Nagal as well. So Enki, Nudimud, Ea also helped in making of the Kama'u, the Pleiadians. These are the children or earthlings in 3761 BCE. That's the date, right? He had earth children of his own as well. And Adapa, which is translated as able to learn, right? Because Adapa, we say Adapa, he was a very studious person, and they say he was taken up without having to experience death, was by Enki's own DNA mixed with Atum and Lilith. Titi, seed of my seed, that's what Titi translates as, yeah? Was by Ninhursag. Own DNA mixed with Ptah and Anath, right? Remember, this is when we're talking about the Adam and Eve story, where you have Ptah and Anath, and then you had Atum and Lilith, who Atum and Lilith were the parents of who we call Zakar. And then you have Ptah and Anath, who were the parents of Nikeba, which would have been that last fourth Adam and Eve, who were around 49,000 years ago, all right? So both were produced by three-parent birth. And now the scientists have actually started to talk about three-parent births. The operation was done by Nin-Gish-Zida, who oversaw his own brother and sister Eve by another. Enki, Nudimud, Ea, also had daughters by his half-sister Ninmah, daughter of Si and Anu. Some of their names were Nam-Mu-Nash, and two more daughters named Ni-Daba and Ni-Saba, Ninsikila, who was the consort of Enshak, and Marduk, the firstborn son of Enki, Nudimud, Ea, took a consort named Sarpanit, who bore him two sons, Nabu and Satu. And Dumuzi had a son named Tammuz by In-Ana, daughter of Nana and Ningal. Adafa, another name referred to as Adam, married Titi, who is Eve in this Adam and Eve story, and had Cain, who we know as Cain, Abael, Abel, and Sati, Seth, according to their story, when in fact Cain was the son of Nana, Nana sin, and Titi, Eve, and Cain, which means the jealous one. So when we're saying Cain, we're saying the jealous one, all right? He took his sister to be a consort named Awan, Labuda, bore Anknu, Enoch, and Irid. Irad married Shakila. So when people say, where did Cain and Abel get their wives from, is because they had sisters, and they took each other's sisters and had a son named Mehujael. Mehujael took a consort named Amanda and gave birth to a son, Methusael. I told you, this Anunnaki, you guys want the Anunnaki, we have to go give you all the names. No one has broken it down to such detail, so bear with it. Anyway, Methuselah married Umnura and gave birth to a son named Lumak, which became Lamech. Lamech married Zillah, who gave birth to two sons. The first was named Yabal, which is Jabal. The second was named Jubal. Lumak, right, also had two more children by another consort named Ada, who also gave birth to a son named Tubal-Cain, and a daughter named Naama. And Abael, the second son of Adapha and Titi, was killed and had no spouse or children. Sati was the second son of Adapha and Titi and married Azuru. And Azuru bore Enshi, which became known as Enos, and Enshi married Noam, and Noam bore him Kunin, and Kunin married Mu'alit, and she bore Malalu, and Malalu married Dunna, and Jared married Baraka, the daughter of Ra-Su-Jael, gave birth to Enkimi, Enoch. Enkimi had a consort named Idni, a daughter of Daniel. And Enkimi, Enoch, gave birth to two sons, Methuselah. Gaida and one daughter named Sarpanit. Sarpanit was the consort of Marduk, mother of Nabu and Satu. Matushal married Ednat, and they gave birth to a son named Lumak. And Lumak married Bar-Tanash, and they had Zeusudra, who people know as Noah. And Zeusudra married Emzara, and Emzara gave birth to triplets sons. Their names were Shama, which is Shem, Hamta, which is Ham, and Yafat, which is Japheth. This is what, from the Noah story, which is being relayed in the Bible, they had these sons, where people say this is where everyone comes from. The triplets, the three races come from, one person, but we know through DNA that's impossible. Now, the children of Enlil. So Enlil, the second son of An, had three sons. The firstborn son was by his own sister, Ninmah. His name was Nin-Erta, master who completes the foundation. Enlil, Nunamnir, also had two more sons. So remember I said you got Enlil is known as Nunamnir and Enki is known as Nudimud. All right. Enlil, Nunamnir, also had two more sons by his official spouse, who was Ninlil, also known as Sud. Their names were Nanna and Ishkur. And Nanna took a consort named Ningal. They had a set of twins, a son named Utu, which became Shamash, and a daughter named Inanna, Ishtar. Nanna also had a daughter named Irishkigal by Ninna Shamael. Irishkigal was espoused to Nagal, a son of Enki, Nud-id-Mud, or Ea. Nin-Erta married Ba'u, and they had two sons and 7 daughters. The most prominent daughter was named Ninsun, Lady Wild Cow, who married Lu-Galbanda. And they had Gilgamesh. This is the Gilgamesh that we say was, a companion to Enkidu, right? Or Enkidu was Gilgamesh's companion, who came to the east side of the earth as Annunaki, right? So this is what we're talking about now. So note, this is not their names, only describes that 50 of them came down to earth, or Ki, Gi, Ki, Gaia, right? So These words that we used, these are the Greek names for Earth, right? This is where there's a channel now called Gaia that everyone is listening to, that are literally talking disinformation that the master teacher Panda Babyanun put out many years ago. Anyway, let's carry on. So Nibiru, the craft, planet or space station on which they lived and traveled, which orbits this system every Shah, and a Shah is 3,600 years, is linked to Nibiru Ki, the control center of Enlil, a city of Shumar, Nippur or Akkadian Shumar. So Sumer was known as Shumar. Akkad is birthplace of the Semitic or Shamitic tongues in Babili, which became Babylon or Bab-Elion, gateway to the Elohim in Mesopotamia. Bab-Ili became Babylonia. I spoke of one called Alalu. He was the deposed ruler of Nibiru, who removed Anu, Ilion, El, Allahu, Ali, the Most High. You can find this in Isaiah 14, 4-14, Psalms 82, 6-7, from the throne. So Alalu removed An from the throne. This Anunnaki was then removed, and An was put back as the Most High. This name An means just that, the highest one. So Alalu was deposed as ruler of Nibiru and was to be killed. So he took his own family, also descendants of, so you got An Shargal and Kish Shargal, and they bore Alam, and then you have Nimug and Alalu, and you have his daughter Damkina and Ninki, all right? Alalu took his family of many, and they departed from Nibiru before he would be killed for opposing An or Anu the second. He escaped to Ki, this planet called Tamat at the time, yet while on Earth, he discovered Nabat, gold, the much needed element to protect Nibiru from the sun's rays, which was destroying it after Alalu's war to take over. So Alalu fought a war to take over, and that caused this destruction that was affecting Nibiru, and they needed the gold to protect it. So Alalu moved to Middle and South America and set up among the Toltecs, who later became known as the Mayas and the Aztecs. He taught them rituals of human sacrifice and bloodletting, and they built many temples and found gold. When the 50 or the Anunnaki arrived here on Earth, Alalu confronted Enki about the gold in hopes to save his life. He also gave his daughter Damkina to Enki, and she became known as Ninki and the mother of Marduk. Enki had come to Earth on an expedition in search of gold, which was found to be present in the rocks of the orbiting asteroid belt above, as all the gold on Earth came to Earth by meteorites from long before. This is why, Elon Musk is trying to go up there and mine this gold, being the richest man already with that. Okay, I'll leave it as that for now. However, when Enlil, so they say, he's the richest man. However, when Enlil found out, he told Anu, their father, and he ordered Alalu to be killed. So he again, Alalu that is, departed from Earth with his wife for the planet now called Mars. They called Mars Lamu El Fustat, and there he set up continued experiments, and he died. This is Alalu. So the face seen on planet Mars, most people talk about the face on Mars today, is a marker from those experiments. This face is of Alalu, that's the brother of Anu, and the feminine statue is of his wife Nimug. So these are the pictures here. When you're looking at, that's the face on Mars, that is actually the face of Alalu, and that's the structures of Nimug, his wife on Mars. And for many years, people were trying to figure out what the face on Mars is. All right, let's keep going. So I'm not going to read all of this because we can put the diagram up, but you can see the diagram of the family and how that becomes the names in the Bible, like Yahweh, Baal, or Gad. And it deals with Enki on this side, yeah, and Enlil on that side. And you can see their offspring. All right, we'll put it up on the screen. So these are their seed in Mesopotamia, not our seed in Africa. This is the distinguishing fact now between the Anunnaki and the seeds, the direct seeds of the Parnatharu, the Africans. So it says, these are their seeds in Mesopotamia, not our seed in Africa. Yet Enki mixed with us, as did Abraham. Because you know Abraham went to Africa and took a wife. So Enki also did this. These are their deities in their Bible and Quran under new names not related to us and our deities, ancestors and relatives in Afafreekau, Africa, the Parnatharu, known as the overseers. So this is why it's important to know the difference between the Anunnaki and the Parnatharu. The Anunnaki, who came to earth, became the gods, lords of the Hebrews, Christians and the Muslims, gave them their holy books and rituals from the Sumerian stone tablets, in part by Tammuz. The Melchizedek or Galzu al-Qadir of Genesis 14, 17 to 22, who introduced Abraham, or Abram, became Abraham, to Anu, Iliun El, the Most High of Ina Annunaki. This Melchizedek in Sumer was called Galzu, and Annunaki called a mysterious divine emissary who conveyed the messages in visions or incarnated to teach. Now you may ask, how did we get connected to the Anunnaki if it is from a different bloodline? He says, the master teacher, Panda Babylon, says, well, there are always times when the bloodlines crossed, and that would tie the Anunnaki in with some of the Muntar, ones of the overseer seeds. So some tribes mix by force through rape or foreign invasions. What was Abraham's before he was called a Hebrew in Genesis 14:13? And from Ur of Chaldea or Chaldean, he was a Chaldean, a Persian. Genesis 11:27 to 32. He became known as an Hebrew, which means one from beyond, because he did just that by coming from another land. He had a wife and his half-sister named Sarah, an Indian hybrid who was not able to bear children. He was given another wife, an Egyptian named Hagar, as I said before, to bear a child. In the Bible, this is Genesis 16, 1 to 2, and Maretat and Nachtat in Egypt. Right, that's her name in Egypt. A Negroid slave he raped, Genesis 16, 3 to 4. In Genesis 16, 15 to 16, Hagar had a son by the rape of Abraham and were cast out and resettled in the wilderness of Beersheba, Genesis 21, 14 and 33. Hagar returned to Egypt and found Ishmael, a wife from amongst her people, Genesis 21, 21. And Ismail, was the very first Nubian in South Egypt, dark-skinned with curly hair. Ishmael had 12 sons, Genesis 25, 13 to 15, and these are the names of the sons of Ishmael, by their names according to their generations. The firstborn of Ishmael, Nabajoth, and Kedar, and Adbil, and Missan, and Mishma, and Duma, and Massa, Hadar, and Tema, Jethro, Naphish, Kedamah, and a daughter named Bathshemath, also called Mahalath, Genesis 36:3, and Bashmath, Ishmael's daughter, sister of Nabajoth. Ishmael was the first Arab, and the word Arab, Aramaic, or Arab, can be found in the Bible under Hebrew Strong's number 6151, meaning to mix, mingle, join together. This first Arab was born to Muskadu, Chaldean, and part Egyptian, or Muhammadu, Egyptian, Abraham and Hagar, Genesis 16:15. Their son Ishmael can be found under Hebrew strong number 3458, Yishmael, and the Arabs called him Ismail in Quran 2:136. When Hagar was cast away from Abraham, they eventually returned to Egypt, and Ishmael took an Egyptian wife and had children, 12 sons and a daughter. This is how the Anunnaki mixed in with the Mukhmatu, the Egyptian seed, Ishmael's seed of the tribe of Kedar, then the Havilaites of Sudan, mixed with Arabs, and on August the 20th, 570 AD, the Arabian prophet Ahmad, later called Mustafa Muhammad al-Amin, was born. These same Anunnaki came to Muhammad in a cave and gave him a revelation that gave birth to the religion of Islam, that also claimed Father Abraham, who was called the friend of Allah in Quran 4:125. Who can be better in religion than one who submits his whole self to Allah, does good, and follows the way of Abraham, the true in faith? For Allah did take Abraham for a friend. So Ubru'um became Abram, became Abraham, was from Ur of Chaldea, the land of demons and fire, Genesis 11:31. And Terah took Abraham his son, and Lot, the son of Haran, his son's son, and Sarah, his daughter-in-law, his son Abraham's wife, and they went forth with them from Ur of Chaldees to go into the land of Canaan, and they came unto Haran and dwelt there. His family were fire worshippers under Uhuru Mazda, who worshipped Atar, god of all fire. Before meeting Melchizedek in Genesis 14, verses 18 to 20, and Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God. And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abraham of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth, and blessed be the Most High God, which hath delivered thine enemies into thy land. And he gave him tithes of all. So Abraham saw what God looked like. Being he was from this land, he would have been accustomed to how they would have appeared. The last to see God was Moses, and he said the Lord appeared as a burning bush, a Luciferian torchbearer, a hey loud, from Isaiah 14:12. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? This is why we say, when you say good morning, you're saying this name of Lucifer, which is the morning star. Anyway, after Muhammad passed in June 8th, 632 AD, a conflict breaks out between the Sunnis, which included Abu Bakr, not blood relative of Muhammad, connected by the marriage of his daughter Aisha, a young wife of the Prophet Muhammad, and the Shiite, who included Amir al-Mu'minun Ali, Muhammad's blood family and nephew, who married his daughter Fatima. The Sunnis, who dress in white, tried to wipe out or eliminate the Shiite group who dress in black. The conflict was over who should be the next caliphate, one who comes next or from behind. That has been mistranslated as a successor or a viceroy by some Qurans, and over who had the correct version of the Quran that Muhammad had. All the copies written on skins and bones had been destroyed by Uthman. The only reference for the Quran was from those who committed the Quran to memory and would recite it like they do today, where the children are taught to recite starting at age 4. Al-Abbas, the uncle of Muhammad, was still alive and tried to protect his family and took Fatima and any remaining wives and moved from Arabia to Muqmat, Egypt. Eventually, the Abbasids wanted to control the Fatimids, who later broke away and moved away down into Egypt and into Nubia, and were called the Dongolawe or the Donogla tribe in Nubia, Napata. Many African Egyptians were also converted to Islam. It was not their natural way of life. Some of the Fatimids followed and settled in Napata and became known as the Dongolawe or the Dongala tribe, known by the 3 tribal scars called shuluks, on both sides of their face, or 3 parallel line scars on each cheek. In Sudan is of 3 tribes. Each has their own tribal marks called the shuluks on the cheeks of their face. One is the Jalian, has a small T shape on each side. 2, the Shagia has a dual cross shape on each side. And 3, the Dongolawe has the 3 strokes on each side of the face, which is what I have. That's the master teacher. Eventually, everyone started to migrate to this area of Nubia, and many converted, yet not all converted to the religion of Islam. We're almost done. Last one page. So you have some with mixed genes and some without, or some people with Anunnaki genes and some without, who descended from this line of mixed Arab Damam blood. Muhammad Ahmad al-Mahdi, born 1845 to 1885 AD, the guide, had 2 wives, again both of Akan and Iwi tribes of Ghana, one named Makbula and the other Yakhasat. Genes were re-strengthened again, so the faces of the children born were African faces. These 2 sides, the Shiite and the Sunni, are nothing more than the 2 brothers Enki and Enlil. Zisudra Utnafishtim, Noah, was perfect in his Tach generation from Enlil by way of Nanna, who had earth children. This is the reason after Zisudra's Ladad birth, it said he glowed and had a light from his Ayantui eyes. Remember those 200 that came down and had Janus sex with the Tsawatat'u, daughters of Enos, and gave birth to children that became Gibor, a Jawid, wicked seed. It was common back then for these Mukwanu beings, Anunnaki, to have Karadu, children, by human hybrids. The nature of these Zamaltui, 2 brothers, are seen today in the face of America through the thinking of the politicians and their 2 points of view. The Republican equals Enlil and the Democrats equals Enki. The Republicans want the people to just believe Za'am, religion, accept without thinking, blind faith. Pahajar Shalel Lawi Tananu, the spell of Leviathan, and started out being for the people. The Democrats' mind is scientific and will ask questions, investigate, and not just accept anything. A more progressive mind. The demigods' scientific minds cause a rise in intelligence and technology. People have no idea what truly is going on. Both seeds exist in individuals inside, so it is hard to fakar, think, and shaur, feel, and be clear in order to be able to perceive fakarat, thoughts, or the difference between bad thoughts. They keep you in a state of depression, so you will send out a certain nashat, energy, into the tapal world. That's why sports are so big and actually gets more attention than national holidays. It is almost like its own holiday. You have all these contests that inspire a spirit of competition. If it is a Nafir beauty pageant, you have, say, 100 contestants, 1 winner and 99 losers who leave depressed or angered. In sports arena, you have 15 football games. The winning team or the winning fans are happy all over. Those fans who are unhappy are also unhappy all over, and in some instances become violent and take their tatafat emotions out on their city and destroy property. In one instance in Europe, Yarapat, Europe, it became so bad they banned all Zazazu men from the game and only allowed Zazastatu women and Karadu children inside of the stadium. Thus you have the Damam blood or Taba nature of 2 natures inside of you, and just like many Shakasu, people who are mixed, you can choose which side to be on after you have taken control of the 30 personalities in you. Let your ayan, I, become one. Matthew 6:22. The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. Luke 11:34. The light of the body is the eye. Therefore, when thine eye is single, the whole body is also full of light. But thine eye is evil, thy body also is full of darkness. Only then will you reclaim yourself and return to your own, and on your own, by regaining knowledge of who you truly are, without beginning, without ending. So that's the whole of that scroll called a Par Annunaki. I'm going to do a quick summary because there's a lot of information. So many people are confused about, everyone just think everyone is Anunnaki, and everyone's talking about the Anunnaki, Enlil and Enki, and they talk about Nibiru and how these Anunnakis are responsible for our creation. And people use the words like our, we, us loosely. But the reality is that you have different bloodlines. All right, you have the original seeds of the Parnatharu, the overseers, who came to this planet first, and by way of their genes seeded this planet, and life was evolving here from the waters onto land. And the oldest, when you go backwards, you go to is ancient Egypt, pre-dynastic, when you're dealing with Napata, Meroe, the Neolithic part of what we call Egypt. And that deals with these Pataites that came onto land, starting with snakes and frogs, as then becoming the Ogdoads, right? Where you have two pairs of what people call Adam and Eve's. So depending on what creation story you're looking at, there will always be a beginning of, the first people. And that would be, as we say, when you're looking at Nun and Nunet, Het and Kikhet, Hihet, Kek and Kiket, and Amun and Amunet. Those are your pairs of that become the 8. And from those you get the Enneads. They have offspring and they have children. And then, of course, you have the breeding of the children known as Nikeba and Zakar, right? This is what people are calling Adam and Eve. That's that 49,000 years ago, where they were trying to, by way of an experiment, bring about a more agreeable being. So they took the seed of Lilith, right? So you got Adam, whose parents are Atum and Lilith, and then you have Nikeba, whose parents are Ptah and Anath. Brought them together to have a child at the right time. They put them in an enclosed garden to carry out this experiment. But as the story goes, as is picked up in the Bible, this serpent came and told them that, they won't die if they eat the fruit that God told them not to eat. And so from that story is where all this confusion comes in. But then you also have the breeding of what we call the Adamites, not Adam and Eve, like people mixing up the Adamites with Adam and Eve. These Adamites were grafted by way of the Pleiadians, who were trying to produce a substitute food source for the Draconians. And they basically bred the Adamites 6,000 years ago. But even before that, you had the Yakub story that he did that breeding of creating the Flugorods. So what happens in the world today is a lot of people are confused because the stories are all mixed up. All the different Adam and Eves are mixed up. The different experiments are mixed up because you have experiments that Alalu was carrying out as well on Mars before coming down to the planet Earth. And there were experiments that were being carried out by the Anunnaki on Nibiru, and when they came down here, even in the underworld with Arishkigal and Nagal, these are also, the family of the Anunnaki. So when we're looking at the whole breakdown, like you have pre-creation, because creation means to grow, to take something that's already in existence and then make something from it. So when you're reading Genesis, people think this is the beginning because the word, they say Genesis means the beginning, but it doesn't. Because the chapter in Genesis called, it's really Barashith in the Hebrew, right? So bara means to create. It's like to take a tree which is already in existence for simplicity and making a table or wood, from that tree. So that's not bringing something anew. That's taking something that's already in existence and creating something else. So people think that that's the beginning. This is why they get confused when they say there's only 2 people on the planet, and they tell you that those people were created from the mud of the ground. But that story is relating to the Adamite story. And so when you say ruddy or red, Edom, dealing with the blood, you're talking about that experiment that was taking place, not the first people on the planet. Because when Adam and Eve have children or had children, Cain and Abel, they say that Cain killed Abel and then he was afraid people were going to kill him. And then you say, where did they get their wives from? People get confused because of the mixture of the different stories and the confusion. So we're saying that people are trapped within people, places and things because Nana, who is the person everyone's calling the devil, and that story of having Anu, right, who's the Most High, their father, who gave birth to Enlil and Enki, who then ruling the planet, as in Enlil states the rule of the skies, Enki is the rule of the key, and then they basically try and control everyone by way of choosing Abraham as their person in Mesopotamia, giving him these tablets and teaching him, Abraham being the son of Terah, who they actually followed Zoroastrianism, right? And they were worshipping fire and so forth. And this is where he was from. Ur of Chaldea means fire. And so this is where religion comes from. And both Christianity, Islam and Judaism, they tie back to Abraham being their father. And so there is a lot to clear up. And if you want to arise and elevate above people, places and things, going back to that etheric, because you're an etheric being that has come down here and lowered your vibration to be caught up in people, places and things. And then these Anunnaki, by way of the 2 brothers Enki and Enlil and their family, are the ones you're calling God, from the word Gadad or Gut in German. And their Enlil's son Nana is really that devil that is confusing and on the planet right now. Everyone's saying God, but they don't know who that God is, which is really these Enlil and Enki and their family, because they've got different titles all throughout the Bible and the Quran. All right, so when we're talking about this Anunnaki story, I hope today's made it clear that the Natharu had children in Africa. They were here first, and then the Anunnaki came here, and because those children were already evolving, Enki went and mixed in with them, had children. So you have people on the planet that, yes, are related to the Anunnaki, and you had those who are not, and then you had those who are mixed. So not everyone is from the same bloodline. And because of that nature that we got mixed in with, by way of coming out of the water, it's like you have to appeal to your nature. Is it the Anunnaki side, as by way of the disagreeable genes, or you're appealing to your Panatharu? And what I mean by that is you can be programmed to lean towards doing all the things you're doing, not realizing that it's aligning you with these Anunnaki, right? So yeah, we've, I think, finally cleared up that Anunnaki story. We're going to move on to the hereafter doctrine. But as usual, the master gives the most details when it comes to all these stories. So I hope that's answered the question about who are the Anunnaki.
Yeah, man. So I hope some people grab some information and deciphering some of this knowledge from Saken, because he's a master teacher in the world of this information right here, the Anunnaki. People want to learn about that. So as you can see, if you listen carefully, you will realize that these are ancestors. These are not just, they're talking about some strange, being that we, these are, the connection hasn't even been made. A lot of information has been debunked in the past, but if we do our research, we'll find out that this is connected right back to our African nature, naturally. So I say, so you can do your own research and find out a lot more on this subject. There's a whole lot out there, and as you can see, there's another lesson after the Anunnaki teachings about the mastered levels, the thereafter, hereafter. Basically, after that, there's a level. So that's where you master the teachings of self-empowerment, self-love, and the greatness of your spirituality. Until you can find your spirituality, you're going to be missing a whole lot of information and thinking there's a whole lot of stuff out there that's greater than you. When the Almighty Creator word said it, that he made you in his likeness and image. The Almighty Creator made man in his image and full him up himself. So basically, if you don't bow to the devil and sell yourself out, you are of God Almighty, naturally, from birth, ordained. So you are ordained greatness of the Almighty Creator. But the reason why a lot of people can't find their power is because they have bowed down to the Luciferian doctrines and learned from the wrong teachers. So now they're studying all type of foolishness that don't even exist because they don't know where their true power is within themselves, their spirituality. The stuff that they used to be able to do, they can no longer do because they can't find their spirituality. Where the power lies. The power is not just in your flesh. The power of flesh is to move in the flesh as a vehicle. The power of spirituality is way, 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 way higher and more powerful than the power of the flesh. All right. So that is something right there each and every one have to learn and grasp for themselves. If you can't see it or do the research or find that for yourself, you probably will never know. You'll continually looking blindly through the two eyes on your face, trying to find some shit that's not out there for you to see on the physical level. But the physical is still there for a purpose, but if you can't find a spiritual, you're going to be missing more than 70% of what you need to know. Probably more, 80 to 90. You know, spirituality is a lot, people. It's what governs the heavens. It's what governs your physical. Whether you know it or not, your physical is not governed by physical. It's governed by spiritual. Believe it or not. That's why the air you breathe, you can't see it. I'm tired of telling people this. Anyhow, stay tuned for more Reasoning with G-Terra, learning, growing, different type of topics, so people can grasp information. Anyhow, you can do your own research at any time.
Rahubat or greetings. I'm Saken from Ask Us Anything, where we like to have great conversations, dialogue, and reason. Each one teach one. So if you're someone who would like to come and have these conversations, send us a video asking 3 questions so we can get a feel for what you want to talk about. And we're in Croydon, Nishat, 101 Church Street, and we've had great conversations with different people discussing all kinds of topics, and we'll be really looking forward to speaking to anyone who wants to come and have a one-to-one and have a conversation about anything. So yes, if you would like to do that, the link is below. Send us a video with yourself asking me or us 3 questions, and then we will get back in touch.
This is what's important. Love and respect to each and everyone out there. Make sure you mash that like button for me and leave your feedback, all right? Subscribe, notification, like me say. Outside, you don't know. No schooling. Reasoning with G-Terra. More coming soon.
Nice.